Hello and welcome to Matt Loves Eurovision. This is my late January 2025 Eurovision update. We are in a very busy time in the Eurovision season. We're just approaching the very busiest time in the national final / internal selection announcements period of the year. So I thought it'd be handy to do a little bit of an update on what's been going on in recent weeks and what's coming up in the next few days as well. Now, I may as well start with some of the sort of less good news that we've had in the last sort of week or so, and that is that we are sadly not going to be 38 countries at Eurovision. When the first time ever we'd had that specific number of countries at the contest, we are going to be 37 after all. And that is because Moldova has withdrawn from the contest. Now, this is a bit of a surprise. Normally, countries, once you've passed that sort of mid-October or that mid-October point of confirming their participation, countries generally don't withdraw unless there are some kind of exceptional circumstances. And that does seem to be the case this year with Moldova. Now, they had already got partly into their selection season. They had run a number of televised auditions to whittle down various submissions that met the criteria to a shortlist for the national final. But following those televised auditions and the shortlisting, they then announced through their head of delegation that they were withdrawing from Eurovision 2025. And I think with the hope to be back next year. And the head of delegation, some of the part of the quotes that she said was that following a detailed analysis of the current situation, as well as the economic, administrative and artistic challenges, was what the behind the withdrawal. It's difficult to know exactly what the pinpoint. Maybe they felt that the quality was just not there, and the Moldovan delegation does not have a huge amount of money. And in fact, I'm pretty sure that the artist or the people around the artist have to actually pay for a lot of the participation in terms of the going to Eurovision and the staging. Of course, none of that is particularly cheap. So the actual broadcaster provides not a great deal of support for the artist. And maybe they felt that the quality wasn't there that made it worthwhile any of them going, or maybe the artists weren't able to support themselves in the way that they would need them to if they were to go to Eurovision. So very sad. Interestingly enough, one of the fan favourite and the favourite to win, called Bacho, the band, they had said they'd secured private sponsorship to be able to go to Eurovision. But I haven't heard anything more from that. And indeed, unfortunately, the EBU, Martin Osterdahl, has sort of regretted the withdrawal, but saying we hope to see Moldova back next year. And also has acknowledged that Moldova will be at least, they will be showing the contest on TV, even if they're not part. And also on the official Eurovision website, if you look at the participating countries, Moldova has disappeared from that. So unless this private sponsorship is accepted by the broadcaster and the delegation, it does seem that we will be without Moldova for the first time in some time at Eurovision 2025, and we just fingers crossed that they will be back for 2026. We've also had a withdrawal or a disqualification of an artist within a national final. Now, we have had a number of these in quite a lot of the different national finals. There's been about 3 or 4, at least, probably half a dozen situations where artists have either withdrawn from a national final or they have been disqualified by the broadcaster in advance of the final. So I wouldn't normally kind of go through the details, but this one was one of the better known. It's one of the biggest known national finals, UMK, the Finnish national final. Also, there were only 7 artists. Now there will be 6 because one of the joint favourites, or certainly, if not the joint favourite, it was certainly the second favourite, has been disqualified or has been withdrawn. And that was because due to what was called a breach of contract. Fortunately, it turns out this was quite a much more serious thing. One of the band members has had allegations made against them of very serious nature from of acts taking place several years ago, which meant that the broadcaster withdrew them from the contest. And not only that, but the other band members have disbanded the band completely. That is one morning left, and their song would have been Puppy. So the band, which had been running since 2008, which first got together in 2008, is no more following this. So, but understandable given the very, very serious nature of the allegations. But moving on to happier news, though, I hope, we do have we now know who the presenters will be for the contest in Basel. And so there'll be 3 presenters. Well, 2 of them will present the semi-finals and 3 of them will present the grand final. So presenting just the grand final, but not the 2 semi-finals, will be a lady called Michelle Hunziker. And presenting all 3 shows will be Sandra Studer and Hazel Brugger. Now, Sandra Studer has a past with Eurovision because she was the Swiss entrant for Eurovision 1991. She was known by the stage name of Sandra Simo at that point, and her song was Canzone per te. It was sung in Italian, and it did well. It finished 5th. We are, of course, in the thick of the national final season. We've had some news in the past sort of few weeks. In fact, just in this past week, we've had an artist chosen in Israel. They have a reality TV show, a singing show called The Next Star there. That has been used to select the artist for Israel for the past few years. That has happened again this year with Yuval Raphael winning that contest. The song will be internally selected, and we will see that it will be released at a later date. We've also had our first national final of 2025, not, of course, the first national final for Eurovision 2025, because we've had Montenegro and Albania, but this is the first one that's taken place for its conclusion in 2025, which is in Luxembourg, the Luxembourg Song Contest, which, despite the small size of Luxembourg, is actually a quite big affair. It had Conchita Wurst both performing a couple of songs, but also co-presenting as well. And we had an appearance from Marie Miriam, who was the 1977 winner for France, the last time that France won as well. Now, the winner of that was Laura Thorne. She had been the pre-show favourite and came through winning the jury very, very convincingly and coming second, a good second in the public vote as well, with her song La Poupée Monte le Son. I won't say too much about what I think of the song, how I think it will do. I'm not going to make any of those comments at this stage because I'm going to leave that to when I do my review countdowns through March and April and May. There've been a lot of other activity, of course, going on in national final season. We've had a couple of 3 semi-finals now from Lithuania, building up to their national final, the grand final in February. And also we have too many to mention of song releases for national finals of various countries. There's too many to name here, but you can always look at my website. I've got a page there which kind of details where we are with all these selections, whether they're national finals or whether they are going to be internal selections. That's on obviously www.mattloveseurovision.com. Please take a look as I do my best to keep that up to date and keep it all together. Coming up this week, we've got a busy time in the national final season. And in fact, as in all of these next few weeks, we'll be in national final season. And February is going to be, well, it could either be fantastic February or frenetic February, or perhaps it's both fantastic and frenetic. But before we hit February, we do have a couple of more things to get through in the last few days of January. We have an artist announcement coming up in the next few days from Austria. And we do have a national final, which will be for Greece, and that will take place on the 30th. We also have 2 semi-finals for the Spanish selection, Benidorm Fest, taking place on the Tuesday and the Thursday. And then on the 1st of February, we have our first of our Super Saturdays for the season, where we have 3 more national finals or concluding. So with Spain, of course, which they've had their semi-finals in the week, but we also get Slovenia and Belgium. And not only do we have those three national finals, we have the kind of stages of other national finals. So we have another Lithuanian semi-final, we have a Latvian semi-final, and we have the first of Melfest's semi-finals taking place on that Saturday. So very busy indeed. And the final bit of news, and the final stuff to note that's coming up, and it's something I always get quite excited by, it is quite a nerdy element, is that we get the semi-final allocation draw, and that will be very, very soon, on Tuesday the 28th of January. This is where we get to decide which countries are appearing in which semi-finals, and which of the and where the big five plus the automatic qualifier, which ones will they be voting in, which of the semi-finals will be voting in. The idea is to try and keep kind of voting partners as split as possible, to sort of make that as fair as possible. So, you're more likely to have Greece and Cyprus in different semi-finals. Doesn't always happen. I think, and obviously when you get ones like that where you have, say, Greece and Cyprus in the same semi-final, you know that Greece and Cyprus will be guaranteed at least some points. They won't get no points. Doesn't guarantee that they will qualify, and indeed several times Greece and Cyprus have not qualified in the last few years. I think actually what's more noticeable this year is there are certain countries who have an extremely strong record when it comes to qualifying, for various reasons. Sweden and Ukraine being the two countries that spring to mind when it comes to qualifying. Ukraine have always qualified. Sweden have qualified all but once. And I think any countries that get pulled, if Sweden and Ukraine get pulled in the same semi-final, I think the other countries probably have a little groan, because it's likely just to reduce the amount of qualifying spots available. But you never know. Sweden and Ukraine could throw in a weak song and not qualify for once. But it does make that itself a little bit more difficult. But we will soon know what that qualification, what the semi-final split is going to be. So please do join me again soon. I'll be back probably post the first Super Saturday, I think. My plan is probably to do sort of regular updates through February. Not doing reviews of the songs that are coming out of the national finals or that are winning the national finals, but maybe a little kind of look back at kind of what's happened, and of course any other news that comes as well. So please do stay tuned. Of course, please subscribe, like, and share, comment, and share and comment below as well, please. But take care for now, and enjoy all the shows. Take care.